This is In the Middle with Josh and Sarah Siders. We get it. You're probably going through something that's asking you to dig deep, think differently, and hold on against the odds.
So these are our thoughts about starting new things, shutting some things down, and being with you, right there in the middle. Hi, welcome to In the Middle. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, so today we're talking about rituals.
Yeah,
So,
but not just any rituals.
yeah,
Rituals for change, for
change
transition.
and transition. Yeah,
Yes, which is like the whole essence of being in the middle is the metamorphosis,
yeah, right.
the process, the journey.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's something that our family has done, but I don't think it was even intentional. Like,
no,
because
yeah,
we haven't done it together, or I mean, we have, but um, it hasn't been like we did a family ritual, like our family,
yeah,
it transitioned together. It was like we all kind of collectively over the last
right.
few years realized, oh, we need this. We need
Uh-huh.
transitions,
Yeah,
transition rituals to help us get to the other side, the
right.
value of it. I'm curious, like, just kind of zooming out a little bit, what made you personally think like, oh, I need a ritual for
Yeah.
this transition? Like, did you ever come to like, oh, that's what's needed here. That's what's missing.
Yeah, I think, well, and there's different kinds of rituals. Like mine was born out of loss.
Hmm. Hmm.
Others have been born out of celebration. So they're kind of multi-use, like
Yeah.
tailored to the circumstance. And I think about it, like people have some ritual for like celebration.
Yeah.
You get a job,
Yeah.
you go out to dinner, you celebrate, right? You maybe make it another decade in life. You get friends and family together and they throw you a birthday party or something. So mine though was more running into this wall, having like feeling some betrayal from people, and like we talked about our last episode, feeling like I was in this transition, this in between of like I thought I knew how to do some things,
Yeah.
and the bottom dropped out, and I need to grieve and mourn.
Yeah.
So that's how I knew. Like, and actually, I read a book where this pastor of a very large church, his kids had grown up, and he had some sons in the teenage years, and he's like felt like killing it, and his wife got pregnant, and he was like, oh no, like midnight feedings, 3 a.m. feedings. I'm a great teen dad. I have to kind of mourn, although we're really happy about this. This
Yeah.
is really great. This is such a shock
Yeah.
that I need to mourn. So he did a ritual,
Huh. Okay. Okay.
to kind of go, I need to like set my expectations
Yeah.
aside, and I need to really grieve. Like I can celebrate and I need to grieve. And so
Hmm.
that's where I felt I needed some inspiration. So do you want me to share about what I did or?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's obviously a
So
good setup.
I went to the Ozarks with your brothers and your dad. We did a men's
Oh
trip from
yeah.
the Newmans,
Yeah.
and so we were at the lake, and I was journaling, and I felt like I was just telling God like my disappointments and my challenges, thanking Him for some things, and so I ripped out, like, just listed off everything that I had hoped for in life and ministry. And then I made a paper boat and I set it afloat. And just kind of an act of surrender of like, hey, I'm ready for what's next. And I don't know what that looks like. And I think I'm as okay as I can be.
Wow.
I'm trying to be,
Wow.
but I need to let go of everything that I didn't think worked out, everything I felt like I kind of given the shaft, everything that,
Mm-hmm.
like was wrong, good, bad, ugly, like I'm going to send that out
Mm.
and let's start a new chapter. And so, yeah, set it, just a little paper boat
It wasn't
on
like
the
you did
lake.
like Viking funeral it.
No,
I
I
picture
didn't
it
have
like
any
this.
fire. I should have. That would have
Like,
been cool.
yeah. Well,
But it was
here's
much more gentle, like just, okay, I'm releasing that.
no, that's so
And
good.
so
So good.
I can't say that in the moment there felt like this big release, but I felt
Right.
like it was a yeah, it was just a statement like of just surrender and of like I want to look forward
Mm-hmm.
and not just get bitter over everything that had gone wrong
Yeah.
or not my way, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, and it coincided. I was 40 years old. I had
Mm-hmm.
turned 40 5 months earlier, 6 months earlier. So it kind of coincided with this like entering the second half of life or like middle age or whatever you would call that. Um, although at the time I would have resisted that, like, no way, I'm not that old. That's for old
I'm not
people.
in
You know,
midlife. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
it's
I
like
know.
it just coincided, a lot of that coincided. And then, a couple months later COVID happened. So I went in to
Good thing you surrendered.
2020, I think like, yeah, like, okay, here we go, So
Uh,
not much control
wow.
over it, so we're gonna
Wow.
make it work. And actually, like, the actual, I know it was really tough for a lot of people, a lot of sickness, a lot of, sheltering in place was really, but
Oh,
like being here with you and the kids, and like I felt great. Like, just there were several shifts that happened, and it was just like being close together and figuring it out, like, this is our tribe. And so anyway,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think being surrendered helped me do that with an open-handedness.
yeah.
And so yeah, that's what it looked like for me.
That's really good. I think you told me about that, but I don't. That's like I didn't remember that you did that. And
Yeah.
I personally have a lot of love for like the whole boat thing. Like there's something about the whole like it's water and fire or water just in general, like
Yeah,
sending something out away from yourself is like a really cool act of surrender.
yeah,
Back like 2015, I did that when, the kids were young and there was just all this like convergence of things happening that I felt were out of control. I didn't do an actual boat. I like actually drew one in my journal.
mhm,
Um, and then kind of like imagined it going out to sea because I had a baby and a toddler and a
yeah,
full-time job and a
right,
nonprofit, volunteer thing that I was doing. And it was probably not going to get out to the lake very easily, but I mean those kinds of things are so helpful. And there really was like a major shift
wow,
within our family
yeah,
about 2 or 3 months later, like
yeah,
coming into 2016,
yeah,
like
right,
major. I mean, this
transformative,
so many of the things that I had let go of and that I was clearly like grasping
right,
started to resolve in very powerful ways. And I think so much of that is like letting go. But I mean, I was in
yeah,
my early 30s and even that was like formulaic, like,
right,
oh, I can just surrender it and then it will come back to me better. And it's like that does not continuously work.
mhm,
And once we get towards the middle, you're surrendering almost like for a different reason. You're like, I have to let this go and this may never come back to me. Like
right,
these expectations, like
yeah, yeah,
I'm letting it go. I'm grieving it. So
yep,
anyway, it's interesting to hear even like those rituals at different points in your life. So when I turned 40, like as I was preparing to turn 40,
yeah,
I had a friend, I've written about this on my Substack, but I had a friend who turned 40 several months before me. And I started like panicking a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh. And it was like this mental checklist, like of just security things or like achievements or different things that I felt like, oh, I have to quick hurry up and like check these
mhm,
boxes. Or I need to, I don't know. I just, it was like this feeling of like, oh, I'm not as far along as I
mhm,
want to be in certain areas. And so I'm going to have to like really quick hurry up and try to like get that for myself. And it's very like, superficial.
yeah, yeah,
And so I really had to start like going, hey, what is this about? Like, why are you panicking? And she had said, now that I'm in midlife, I don't have that many F's to give or whatever. And
mhm,
I was like, wait, what? Midlife? Like, wait, what we don't agree that 40 is midlife, right?
right,
Like
right,
40 is like what we are or you are, and I'm
yeah,
about to be like, so midlife is like. And I think there's still some, you know, discussion about when it is. But anyways, it was like for her there was like a lot of freedom and I was like, well, that's really cool, but also like, wait a minute, I was really reconciling it. But I could feel all this like internal angst inside of me and it's like, well, that's for something, right? Like you don't just get that because you're turning 40 and you need more zeros in your 401k or something,
mhm,
right? Like
mhm,
um what is this internally that's happening for me? And so I started really getting like diving into it and I started thinking like, is there any kind of ritual out there for like turning 40, and the Hebrew traditions often have like some really great rituals, and I'm like looking like, is there anything,
Mhm.
nothing in the Bible, but like 40 is a number that like people would hit 40 in the Bible, and then there would be this like major role shift or identity shift, or like it would be a time span, 40 years in the wilderness. And I was like, yeah, I've been in the wilderness for 40 years. Little did I know I was heading into one. Um, and so I was researching it, and there really wasn't anything, but I decided to sort of like make my own.
Mhm.
And I'm really glad I did. So I didn't want to do a party. Like it was still kind of COVID,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
still post 2021. And I was feeling very disaffected from like, some of my relationships, and just like what, again, feeling like I didn't know what to expect from the
Mhm.
world. And so I was like, I don't really want to do a birthday party. Like
Yeah.
I don't love that.
Yeah.
Um, and so even though I have like amazing friends around the country and things like that, and I could have invited everybody together and it would have been really fun,
Yeah.
but I was like, I just can't bring myself to do it. So I wanted to go out to Colorado with you guys, which we did, and it was really fun. There's this river outside the condo that we've
Mhm.
gone to
Mhm.
a lot of times. And I was like, okay, I constructed it, right? Like, so I had my friends, that, just a tiny little handful of people, write to me like a blessing of the things they think I should leave behind
Mhm.
before I turn 40, like in my
Mhm.
30s, in my younger life, and what should I carry forward.
Mhm.
And so I had them write these things, and I didn't read them until that day. I got up at dawn, and there's like that liminal space of like, in kind of like Native American tradition, these others, of just like what the dawn is, and like
Mhm.
the middle of that, just that liminal space. And so I got up and I was like, okay, I want to like pray and, receive what the good that is for me
Mhm.
in this next era. And got up with you guys. You guys gave me gifts, which was really sweet. And then you went to the far side of the river. It's
Mhm.
not a big river.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
like anyone's like, oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
not the Mississippi. All right. Um,
It's like a mountain stream gently
it's
coming
not
through,
mountain stream
Yeah.
vibes, but it's like the North Fork of the Snake River.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I could go across it like safely in my chacos and
Yeah.
in my like, nylon
Yeah.
running pants. And so um I walked across it, and I had like a little stone that I pulled out from the water, and that kind of like represented what I was going to leave behind. So I read the note that you wrote for me, and
Mhm.
that my friends got to open up all these notes and read the things that people wanted me to carry forward,
Mhm.
and what they wanted to make me, have me leave behind. And it was so like, I was like, gosh, I'm so lucky, so
Yeah.
fortunate to have
Yeah.
friends who know me so well.
Yeah.
They can just nail it.
Yeah.
They can be like,
Yeah.
honey, you better leave this in the past, and this is what you should carry forward. And it was so good. It even stays with me still when I like think about who I've become, and like the
Mhm.
things that are like gently shaping my life
Yeah.
are some of the words from my friends,
Right.
um who like gave me language for who I like am in my core, and like
Mhm.
what to shed and what to bring forward. And so it was just like so cool. It was really lovely. And then I had this rock, and it represented like everything I needed to leave behind. And so I kind of like put all of that like mentally into this rock, and like threw it into the river.
Mhm.
We have pictures of all of this.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was so special, it was so, so special to have that time, and to have those words from people. And
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I felt like, wow, I'm so glad I gave myself this gift of, first of all, like, I have these amazing friends. So like, I must be a good friend if I have amazing friends. But like, my friends are so
Yeah.
generous to me to make time to do that. Like, they had to mail these things to me. Like, we don't mail things anymore.
Hmm.
Everybody was just like so cool, and so generous. And that I didn't have a party. Like, I didn't ask them to go to Vegas for a girls' weekend or whatever, but that was the thing that they did. And I'm so
Yeah.
grateful. And it really did, shape me in such a powerful way. And I'm I would highly recommend the
Yeah.
ritual. Like when you
Yeah.
turn 40, you have like a major life stage transition like that.
Yeah.
Having your friends speak to what to carry forward and what to leave
So
behind
good.
is so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I like the water crossing. That's like
Yeah. Yeah.
a visual metaphor in the Bible a
Yeah.
lot, crossing through the waters. And so I wanted to just like pack up all the metaphors and
Yeah.
all the meaning, and like try to extract as much as possible, which is totally on brand for me. So, anyways, I'm so glad I did that. That
Yeah.
was really, really amazing. And I totally recommend it.
Yeah.
5 stars.
Yep. That's so good. I appreciate you sharing all that. And yeah, I think the, crossing over from one stage to the next, we just don't do it enough in our culture.
Right.
And it leaves a lot of us stunted, I
Yeah.
think, or like continuing to look back.
Yeah.
And so we've even done rituals for our kids.
Yeah.
Like our oldest turned 13 almost a year ago. He's going to be 14 here in a couple months. So
Yeah.
we
Wow.
were
Oh my
we were
gosh.
ready for him to cross over into those teenage years with, things involving our family, and then, kind of me taking point on discipleship with him, like
Hmm.
teaching him how to be a man and teaching him about the Bible. And there are lots of things that we did involved in that, so that he could know he's crossing over. So he doesn't have to guess.
Right.
Am I still a boy?
Yep.
Well, no, you're a man in training. You're
Yeah.
not a man yet,
Yep.
and we'll do a ritual for when that happens too. But I think without that, like our culture is left guessing.
Yeah.
When did I become an adult?
Oh
When
my
did I
gosh.
become a man? When did I become a boy?
Adulting's a verb now. What?
Yeah, right. When do I get to be affirmed as having grown up? And
Yeah.
so we're just lost,
Yeah.
and we don't have to be. We don't have to wait either for someone else to define it. Like we can lead our families and lead our kids, so
Yeah.
that we can affirm them in whatever stage that they're in. So yeah, I think that's just really, really important.
I totally agree, and I don't know how much you want to speak to like the elements of the ritual that you did for John. It was a series of things, like even just taking him on these like mountain climbing expeditions or
Right.
hiking expeditions, even leading up to turning 13
Right.
and being like, hey, this is what's coming
It's
for
coming.
you,
It's
and like
coming.
a sense of
Right.
anticipation.
Uh-huh.
But then yeah, I mean, I don't know what all you
Yeah.
can say, but I think like having men around
Yeah.
him
Right.
to demonstrate the values of the community, the family, it's like extracting these ancient practices, right?
Yeah.
Like I think
Yeah.
that our culture does lack a structure. Like I love so many things about America, but the melting pot reality
Yeah.
is that we've all kind of like we've a lot of us have lost an ancient culture.
Yeah.
Like maybe we're 6 7 generations or more in from immigrant families, and so many people, if you look back in cultures around the world,
Yeah.
um have rituals for things.
Right.
It's like and that culture kind of gets
Yeah.
diluted here, and
Right.
now we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And we have
And
all this privilege,
yeah.
and
And I'll
so
say this, like for what we're doing with John, and then later we'll do with James,
yeah.
like it really does affirm the journey of being in the middle. So
Yeah.
even him as a 13-year-old, he's not a grown man,
Yeah.
right? But he's not a boy, right? He's somewhere in the middle, and it validates
True.
the daily
That's so true.
steps that he takes towards the greater vision of, I'm going to get good at being a man. Right?
Yeah.
I want to learn how to do this, how to give back to others, and be confident in who I am and how God has made me. And so yeah, I think that's worth mentioning too, is it's not just the complete like in the moment crossing over. It's what are the rituals of the beginning and the end of that middle thing, and then affirming what's going on in the day to day.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where a lot of people also get lost, is the consistency of one step at a time in the middle towards a goal. I'm
Yeah.
not there yet.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
Yeah.
Am I doing this right? I want to go back, and so yeah, that's built in with the thing that we're doing with John.
It reminds
So
me of Eugene Peterson's statement or the book, like the long obedience in the same
that's
direction.
it. Yeah,
It's like that is all there really is. And
that's it.
when I was younger, like and I heard that title of that book and I was like, what?
Yeah,
It was like I was rejecting it because I'm like, that can't be all it is.
it
But eventually you realize like everything stacks up to that.
does. It
And
does.
that is what matters, is that you just keep on saying yes to
Right.
your people, to the thing that's in front of you, to the
Mhm.
hard thing. um and maybe that's just like, I don't know, good old fashioned work ethic, but it really is like a mad like just having the internal fortitude to push through
Yeah.
the disappointment, and
Yep.
to intentionally move yourself through. And I think
Yeah.
the rituals are almost like, they feel like pushing off points, or like pillars. Like, when you're swimming, you like swim from one side to the next and you push off the wall.
Right.
Or if you're like on a
Yep.
journey, you have like waypoints, and they sort of feel like a mixture of those things. Like, for me to be able to push off the wall of that ritual and
Yep.
be like,
Yep.
these are my friends and my family in this place that I love.
Yeah.
And I'm pushing off from that, like, all those things together, and into the next season of my life, and therefore the momentum at which I go
Right.
would be greater, or the momentum of like internal change, not so much like, oh,
Right.
I'm so much more productive or like so much more
Right.
successful, but it was like, I'm setting myself up for success because I'm being intentional with these things. And I think like there's micro rituals like
Sure.
Sabbath, which
Sure.
we talk about in
Yeah.
another episode. Don't worry, we will.
Yeah.
Um, but
I think Sabbath,
yeah,
communion, baptism, some of those like faith.
it's
Yeah, I think those are huge grounding
Oh,
practices. Yeah.
completely. Yeah, so
Yeah,
like
we'll
you have
get
the
into
certain
those.
points of life, but then
Yeah,
there's like the weekly rhythms, and
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
are so super important. And I think those are like rails for your life, but then there's like the
true.
transition pillars, or like
Yes.
the waypoints,
Right.
and so I think
Yep.
those are different, right?
Differentiating those.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
true.
really important, like especially when you're in the middle and you're in it, you're like navigating like a big turn or big shift.
Uh-huh.
You need like a more distinctive, like,
That's true.
let's drop some cash,
Stake in
let's
the ground.
go out,
Yeah,
take a trip,
right.
let's do this thing,
That's good.
and make it meaningful. So
Yeah. So
anyway,
what would you do? What would you say to encourage someone who's like, yeah, I have this big life change that it has happened or is happening. What should I do to make a ritual, a grounding practice, or something like some sort of memory point or
yeah,
something?
I mean, like going on a trip with your family and doing everything that I did might not be possible, but
Sure,
like the
sure.
core, like a core thing, um, is, questions like, um, what have I learned
Yeah,
from the things that have happened? Like, I really love doing life maps. I do them about probably every 5 years.
yeah.
I'll just tape a bunch of pieces of paper together, draw a line down the middle, you know, good things, or like at
Mhm.
the time experienced good above the line, negative things below the line.
Yeah,
And they'll look for patterns, and I
right.
just like see how my life is unfolding. And I've really appreciated, being able to do that, and it helps me think about what I'm learning. So thinking about like,
Good.
what am I learning, what did I learn from this period of time, or this experience, what do I want to leave behind, really like noticing, and even bringing in trusted people into that,
Yeah,
friends, mentors, pastors, therapists,
yeah.
just
I feel
trusted
like
people.
affirmation, just let me,
Yeah,
if I could,
yeah,
I feel like bringing outside voices to speak affirmation
yeah,
over you
yeah,
is so critical
yeah,
in those moments of like, oh, I just got punched, or
yeah,
like, because
huh,
not all celebratory things are all good necessarily.
yeah,
There's still grief in there. Not everything that's bad is all bad, but having some
so
people
true.
to go, hey, you got this, we got you,
Yep,
let's do it. Come on.
absolutely.
So critical. So I love that you're like, that's a commonality that I keep seeing among these things. So I just wanted
No, I appreciate you mentioning that. And like, part of me is like being a little hesitant with that, because I feel like so many people don't have good friends,
to,
and good relationships that they can say, "Hey, can you tell me what I should leave behind and what I should bring forward?" It's like, holy crap. I mean, I've known these people for over a decade,
sure,
or two
yeah, not
decades, three
everybody has
decades.
that.
So I'm super, super fortunate, to have that. But even if it's like, maybe it's a therapist or a pastor or
Coach,
different things,
mentor,
just
yeah,
being able to say like, here's the core of who you are, can shed these things and be good,
really,
and carry these things forward. So yeah, what do I want to carry forward? What do I want to leave behind? What have I learned from this? And what do I have to look forward to?
yeah,
So it can be like
good,
quadrants. I did an exercise like that, a few months ago,
yeah,
those quadrants. But the questions are really important. And then a question that I ask clients, and then I ask myself all the time, that is sort of obsessed with, is, who am I now that? And getting into the core of
mm,
like, if I take all those
yeah,
four things, what have I learned? What am I leaving behind? What am I carrying forward? That final piece is really like, who am I
yeah,
now?
good,
And so I think like, you can do that in a journaling practice. You can do that on a walk. You can make a boat or
Yeah.
something and, release it.
Light something on fire.
Light something on fire. I mean, come on. The safe
The
pyromaniac.
pastor I recommended, he dug a hole and buried it. He wrote it out and buried
And that's such a
it. And had a
grief.
funeral.
That's a really good grief
Yeah,
ritual. Is
absolutely.
the funeral.
Lots of different
So
ways.
lots of different ways of like releasing it and letting it go. I like symbols as well, like little stones or
Yeah,
rocks or
right,
pebbles. But
right.
anyway, so things like that,
Good.
that combination of reflection, kinesthetically
Good.
writing
Yeah,
it,
I think
and
that's
then symbolism,
mhm,
releasing. I think those are really good.
good.
And anything you can do physically, like bodily, like stepping over
Yep.
something, stepping
That's
through
important.
something, that kind of creates an experience,
Uh-huh.
a bodily experience of like crossing over.
Good.
So anyway,
Love it. That's so good. So yeah, we encourage you, whatever way you can or need to do that. And then final 2 questions.
yeah. What are you reading right now? Reading, watching,
Reading, watching, listening to.
listening to.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
What about you?
Me?
Yeah.
I am narrowing it down to one thing.
Okay.
I am listening to the Family Teams podcast with Jeremy Pryor. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's been really, really good. And we went to the integrated kind of conference retreat mastermind group
Yeah.
recently and
Yeah.
met
That's so
lots of cool
good.
people. And so I'm getting kind of realigned and caught up on, aligning business, faith, and family. And it's been really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. I
Yeah.
love that.
How about you?
Um,
Watching, listening to.
oh man. Yeah, I've been reading like over this last weekend. I read some Mary Oliver essays, and
Good.
if you're on my Instagram or whatever, like you see, that's a huge influence for me, in my writing
Yeah.
and how I think about things and how I notice the world. And so I just live in Mary Oliver
Mm,
right now and have
mhm.
for the last few years. And I think like COVID, for all its horribleness, caused us to slow down, a lot of
Yeah.
us. And so I think I've just been carrying
Yeah.
her words with me, and it's really, really lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. For
So
sure.
yeah.
What's saving your behind? What's saving your butt right now?
So related. I mean, yeah, the last few weeks we had a whole bunch of travel during like the last little bit of summer,
Yeah.
and it was like, and I loved it, but it was also, it's a little disruptive, right?
Yes.
To your normal.
Right.
And so getting back into the like home rhythms,
Huh?
and having like quiet
Mm-hmm.
Sabbaths of like analog reading,
Yeah.
and just like reading things that are not like current events. I mean,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
love to read
Yeah.
that stuff, but like reading things that are old,
Yes.
words from people who are not here. Just the ancientness of that is so helpful. Um, and so, yeah, I read a whole bunch of, I think I almost spent a lot of the day in Marietta. What about you? What's it?
I was going to say Sabbath too.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of rebooted our Sabbath, a lot of kind of drifting over the last couple years and just getting back to like being with the kids
Yeah.
and being together and having dinner, Shabbat on Friday. And it's been really, really good. Slowing down,
Yeah.
just really the idea again that we need to be reminded of is that we don't rest from work, we work from rest.
Yeah.
That is, Sabbath is just my favorite. It is my favorite day. So
It's so great.
yeah.
Yeah. It's been fun to like, instead of doing the date night on Friday night and then kind of like this sort of patchwork thing with the kids, being like, we all get together and it's funny because they don't like love everything about it. They're like annoyed, like, oh, this is you messed up my, moved my cheese or whatever.
Yeah.
But then there's these other parts that they love, and them being creative and bored and having things, to do and having friends over and things like that. It's been really, really lovely.
Yeah, it's been good. So
cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Yay.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here with us.
Yes.
This is the In the Middle podcast with Josh and Sarah Siders. Visit inthemiddlecoaching.co for other resources, courses, and helpful tools.